We're up to chapter 14 in my autobiography. This is entitled, Again, Mary. Subsection 1, Hawaii, the island of Kauai. I had been residing in the town of Santa Fe for about 4 months when Mary entered my life once again. I was living in a small casita in a quiet rural area of the town, and for those 4 months I had been concentrating on my writing and on making more and more YouTube videos. During that period of time, I didn't think about Mary much. I was too busy dealing with the circumstances surrounding my mother's death and getting myself resituated to bother with her. I still loved her, I knew that much, but I had filed her away in the back of my mind. It was simply too painful to deal with. But then one night, April 21st to be precise, this is April 21st of 2018, when I was drunk, I decided to click on her website for the first time in almost a year. But the site said that her page was no longer available. I wondered what had become of her. I was afraid that she had gone into full-blown prostitution, and she did, as it turns out. Which she had threatened to do at one point. She had told me a year earlier that she was going to use a website called Seeking Arrangements in order to hook up with a sugar daddy unless I helped her out financially. Now I feared the worst. Here are a few emails from that period. This one is from Mary on Friday, May 12th, 2017 at 8:14 p.m. John, I think I need to do SA, at least suck some guys' cocks and make some money. I need money to replace my phone and my laptop. I'm being online stalked by someone. I don't think I'm being paranoid. Someone is following me online, maybe even hacking into my cam phone and watching me. I wrote back, I don't want you to go into SA. That's full-blown prostitution, hon. You'll ruin your life. She wrote back, I'm not going to. I just got paranoid for some reason. I see how silly it was now. Then she reassured me that she wouldn't go into prostitution, but that conversation was still in my head swimming around somewhere, and it worried me. I still had her email address, though I had no idea whether it was still valid. So I sent her a random email that said, You still around? I see your StreamMate page is gone. I did not expect her to respond, but to my surprise, she wrote back. I'm not webcamming anymore. I'm in Hawaii now. She explained to me that she had finally stopped camming just a few months ago and that she had gone into a student exchange program where she would go live on a farm and learn agricultural skills. I was amazed. Suddenly, I was very proud of her. She had finally done something to salvage her life and get out of the sex industry. I told her that it was probably the best decision she'd ever made in her life. And now that she was out of the sex industry, maybe we could resume the relationship and give it another shot. Maybe we could finally have the kind of decent, loving relationship that both of us really wanted. I was thrilled. She sent me pictures of her new artwork, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. She was getting better and better, and it appeared that she was emerging into full-blown artistic genius, Picasso quality. I fully believed in her and told her that one day she was going to be known as a very great and famous hypermodern artist. I was sure of it, and still am. In fact, I bought one of her paintings, though she never sent it to me. It was a luminously beautiful, multicolored vision of a bird on a Hawaiian beach. She was staying on the island of Kauai, drinking water, an absolute masterpiece, which I entitled Bird, but then later changed to Iris, the Greek messenger and rainbow goddess. And this one, which I've entitled Hawaiian Landscape. And this one, which I've entitled Morphogenesis. I've entitled this one Magmatic Earth. And this one, Jewel. One masterpiece after the next. And the best one of all, Jungle Morphica. Subsection 2. Great wits, art of madness near allied, and thin partitions do their bounds divide. John Dryden wrote that. We started talking over the phone every single night, usually for about 4 or 5 hours. In fact, we spent the next 6 months, from April to October, on the phone, once again, talking about anything and everything. I noticed that her intellect had sharpened as well, since she kept asking me questions about various philosophical points I had made in my videos. She wanted me to go through Heidegger with her, and also the ever-present Deleuze and Guattari. We never got around to it, but she wanted me to walk her through all the great German idealist thinkers, beginning with Immanuel Kant. She had now become not just my lover, but my star pupil. Her appetite for knowledge was voracious, and she wanted to know everything I knew. The relationship was now indeed very, very good. It was functioning like it was meant to. Things were better now than they had ever been. She invited me to come out to Hawaii and take her on a helicopter tour over the volcanoes that were then erupting, but it was too expensive for me at that point. I invited her to come to see me for a few days in Santa Fe. She wanted to, but she was hesitant. And then she said, "How do I know you won't kill me if I come out there?" I was taken aback. Where the fuck was this coming from? "Kill you?" I said. "Are you out of your mind? Mary, you can't really believe that. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I have no history of violence whatsoever. You know that. I've never been arrested. You don't just start being violent at 50. Except, of course, in the television show Breaking Bad. I would already have had a history of violence. You're being silly." She was being paranoid, actually. I had always known that she had a tendency toward paranoia, but it was mild and usually easy to ignore. The year before, when we had been talking in the springtime, I remember a strange episode where she was convinced that someone was stalking her on social media and sending her YouTube videos about dinosaurs in her queue. Here's the email conversation we had on May 12th and 13th, 2017. From Mary to me, Friday, May 12th, 2017 at 8:15 p.m. Been really freaked out all day. And then to me again. "It's not you, is it, John? Someone hacked into my YouTube account." Me to Mary. "No fucking way is it me. Call me right now, hon." And her to me. "It must be a mistake somehow. I can't. I have to get ready for Kim." Me to her. "We need to discuss this. Just call me for a few minutes." Her to me. "I must have made a mistake. YouTube was probably open in a tab and autoplaying stuff. I just saw a bunch of videos in my history about dinosaurs. It's stupid. I just got paranoid for a minute. Must have just had a window open and didn't realize it. Sorry to worry you, babe." Me to her. "Mary, I love you. You fucking know I do. I would never fuck around and play mind games on you, baby. I am so not that way. Don't go into SA, baby. It'll ruin your life. There'll be no turning back, and you won't have any future at all. No one's ever going to take a prostitute seriously for anything. And what will happen when you're too old to have anybody want to fuck you? What then? Forget about this stupid shit with YouTube. Nobody's hacking you. It's just some kind of glitch or something. Just ignore it. And keep doing your camming. Don't make your mother and I worry about you out there with strange men who could hurt you. Please don't do that. I want you to stick with me, hon, and love me." And then me to Mary early the next morning. I was probably up all night, actually. "Okay, hon, it's okay. And both of us have mental illnesses that cause us to flip out. I mean, I get mean and you get paranoid. That's just the nature of our illnesses. It's okay, darling. I love you so, so, so much. My God, Mary, please don't ever doubt that. I'm going to spend the day-to-day finishing Gravity Girl and publishing it on CreateSpace. But listen, the price of that is that you don't go into prostitution. Stay out of it, Mary. I'm telling you, you'll wind up dead or disappeared, and nobody will look for you. If you go into prostitution, I'll take Gravity Girl down off CreateSpace, and the book will cease to exist. That's the price. I'm not telling the world that I'm celebrating a prostitute. No way. A webcam model is one thing. Real prostitution is another. Nobody is hacking you, Mary. That's paranoid. I can't explain why the videos are appearing in your feed, but I seriously doubt it's someone putting them there to fuck with you. There are a lot more direct ways to do it than that. That just seems goofy to me. No one can hack into your cameras either. Use nail polish remover to clean the lens on your cell phone. Everything is okay, Mary. Just don't go into prostitution and mess things up with us, because it will put severe stresses on our relationship that I don't think we could recover from. I can't have you out there rewarding rich men with your beauty and your pussy while I get nothing. That just won't work. It'll make me feel like a piece of shit, and I know you love me and don't want that. It might even cause me to commit suicide. I don't know. I'm hovering on the brink of it as it is now. I'm staying sober, and I'm going to try my best to stay sober for you, Mary, so that we can have a stable, loving, warm relationship. All right, I'll see you tonight on camp, beautiful girl. Kisses. But then the next day, she flipped out again. The original Gmails for these have disappeared somewhere, but the transcript is verbatim from what used to be in my Gmail history. I'm definitely being stalked. I don't know if it's just on YouTube, or if my email is hacked too, or if my whole laptop and my phone are both hacked. Everything would be recorded, all my phone conversations. No, babe, I typed back. I don't believe that. I don't think that's the case. I really don't. If you were being hacked, you'd have all kinds of problems on your sites. I just don't see it, babe. I made some comments. Or she says, I made some comments on some of the videos asking why they were doing it and asking them to stop. Comments were deleted today. Also, I had 9 subscribers yesterday. Now I have 0. They were all invisible. Something is going on here, John. You can't tell me I'm crazy. I'm not convinced, I typed. I think it's a YouTube glitch. Why would someone send you dinosaur videos, hon? That's silly. Are you a part of it? She typed. Am I a part of it? Is that a serious question? Are you kidding me? You can't believe that after all the work I put in this morning designing this cover and uploading to CreateSpace, I think there's a hate group forming against me or something. Why were there 9 subscribers? Where did the comments go? John, it's all too strange. Something's going on. I don't know what to do. I feel like all my electronics are compromised now, and my privacy completely. That can't be right, Mary. You're being paranoid. Mary, I love the fucking shit out of you, I said over the phone that night, but this side of you scares me. I tried reasoning with her, but to no avail. I just had to wait for the episode to pass. Such episodes would come and go with her, but I didn't think there were anything to worry about. I was wrong. Subsection 3, Radical Feminist. We resumed talking and making each other laugh. She had a terrific sense of humor, and we both laughed at the same things. Sometimes we would make each other laugh for 5 hours at a stretch. She had sent me some political cartoons that she had done. 4 panels. The first one featured a trans woman admiring herself in a compact mirror with a crowd around him, her, in adoration, as though he were a version of the Christ child. The second one is a trans woman at a clinic getting some sort of skin surgery. The third one features a trans woman rally at a public library, and the fourth one shows a trans woman as a merman woman. The cartoons struck me as being very anti-men, and I didn't think they were funny. I told her that I thought the artwork was skillful. Her command over such a diversity of art forms and styles was truly astonishing, and that particular style would work very well for illustrating a graphic novel, but I didn't get the jokes. We got into a bit of a fight over it, naturally. I've given these the titles: Trans Spectacle, Tranny Comic, Transphobia Kills, and Merwoman Man. She then explained to me how she had converted to radical feminism, which at the time I knew nothing about. She told me that she had turned against porn, insisting that it victimizes and objectifies women. She explained how men were the root of all evil, the founders of a corrupt way of life called, quote, civilization. Civilization, she insisted, was the construct of men, correct, and was ruining the planet, just as I had described in my book, The Age of Catastrophe. She also made the absolutely absurd statement that men are all potential rapists. When I pointed out that I had never had a rape fantasy in my life, she told me that I was just an exception to the rule, and she had a thing about transgender women, whom she thought were ridiculous and fake and posed a threat to women's rights. Transgender women, she insisted, were invading women's locker rooms simply because they could identify as female. They were raping women in women's prisons. They were constantly out to get women. In other words, what had happened to this poor young girl with a fragile ego was that in order to get herself out of the sex industry, and indeed to cure her sex addiction generally, she had identified with radical feminism, which teaches that all men are corrupt and that all porn is bad. Especially S&M, which is perceived as male-dominant. It isn't. The final demolition of her fixation avatar had come at the cost of rejecting sexuality altogether. What a mess. She now refused to wear any makeup, which I thought was great because her natural beauty was so intense and livid that she simply didn't need it. She also explained that she had stopped shaving her legs, and especially her pubic hair, thank God, which she had always shaved for her fixation show, since doing those things were all conventions to which women in white, male-dominant Western civilization were forced to conform. You don't watch any porn at all? She said that she only watched videos of men masturbating. Videos, in other words, which did not victimize or objectify women. That's still porn, Mary, I pointed out. You don't get out of it that easily. You're still getting off to watching men ejaculate. That's porn, Mary, whether women are in the videos or not. We had, however, resumed masturbating together over the phone and on Gmail. She was sending me pictures of her vagina while we were doing it, now with full-blown pubic hair. So I asked her to send me a full-body picture of herself naked. I wanted to see the new her. She then she sent me an image of her seated naked on a chair, but with her face covered by her hands. I insisted on one that included her beautiful face. But she then threw a tantrum at me and told me that it reminded her too much of webcamming and being a sex object for men. But I'm not one of those men, Mary, I said. I'm your boyfriend, and I'm very strongly sexually attracted to you, just as you are to me. Well, then why don't you do it, John? Why don't you send me a full-body picture of yourself naked? But I've gained weight, I said. I'm self-conscious about it. You'll laugh at me. Ha! You see, it's not so easy, is it? So, with great reluctance, at least at first, I agreed to do it. I took off all my clothes and went over to the full-length mirror and snapped a few Playgirl photos. I then sent them to her, but her response surprised me. Instead of making fun of me, she drooled over them. She started giving me specific directions as to what she wanted to see, what angle I was to pose for, which close-ups of my penis, etc. I complied. Once again, we then had a lot of fun with sex. Over the summer, I proceeded to make a bunch of masturbation videos of myself to her specifications. We had yet another role reversal. Now I was becoming the sex object. She was very specific about what she wanted me to do, what angle of my penis she wanted to see, how I was to ejaculate for her. She insisted on me acquiring a prostate massager and making videos of me using it. I was enjoying this very much. She wasn't the sex object anymore, now I was. Whereas she had made masturbation videos for me the previous year to my specifications, now I was doing them for her specifications. She was watching my videos and masturbating to them all the time, and in most of the videos, I showed myself masturbating to the videos which she had made for me the previous year. This was a lot of fun. I enjoyed trading places with her and becoming the sex object for her female gaze. At one point, though, she explained to me that something had been going wrong with her vagina. She was having pains inside of it, and the thought of having sex, which involved penetration, nauseated her. She explained to me that if we got back together in physical space, the sex would be strictly oral for both of us. That was fine by me. 69s are my favorite. But I thought she needed to see a gynecologist. I offered to pay for her to see one, but she refused. I was pretty sure that it was just psychological. She had been so addicted to her vagina and to having orgasms with it for so long that she had overdosed and was now turning frigid. This is a common pattern that I've noticed amongst promiscuous women. They often reach the point of overload and then have what Jung called an enantiodromia, or a complete turning around of attitude. She suspected that using so many latex dildos for so long might have damaged the inside of her vagina, or even given her cervical cancer. But as it turned out, she went to see a gynecologist later in the year and was diagnosed with endometriosis, which is a condition in which tissue belonging to the inside of the uterus starts migrating outside of it to places where it doesn't belong. She had been worried that it might be cervical cancer, but I insisted that it was most likely psychological. And I still think that her psychology, her need to cut off her sex addiction in order to get out of the sex industry, actually caused the condition and not the other way around. She had, in other words, rejected her own vagina, and now it was causing her health problems as a result. Nonetheless, the relationship was now better than it ever was. We started plotting the outline for a graphic novel, a social satire that she had invented, which was really, really funny. The plot, which she devised, concerned the attempts of a mission to colonize Mars, which never makes it out of the exosphere, as the spaceship gets hit by space junk. I suggested the space junk should be the Jeff Koons statue of Michael Jackson. She almost died laughing. The protagonists, trapped in a doomed spacecraft, gradually break down and end up cannibalizing each other. The characters are all based upon social stereotypes. The transgender man, the primary object of her ridicule, of course, the social justice warrior, the alt-right bodybuilder who's obsessed with white genocide and whose girlfriend is a fembot, a Donald Trump-like megalomaniacal captain, and so on. We would go back and forth of the phone trading jokes and scenarios. What if I suggested the moon was blown apart by an Osama bin Laden-type character using a nuclear-armed RPG? He's mad because it shines in his cave every night, so he blows it apart, and now it's actually literally in the shape of a crescent. And that's what caused the apocalypse that devastated the planet. Hysterical laughter from both of us. What if, she suggested, America has now lost all of its states and is governed by corporations with private armies like Walmartopia and Amazonia, who are like total enemies who hate each other. And sometimes they go to war using their props. Amazonia uses drones and Walmartopia has an army of soldiers with blue vests on. Hysterical laughter from both of us. What if I then suggested for some reason Jack in the Box has been transformed into a religious cult? Their primary god is the Jack character, and their saints and martyrs are those bendable buddies they used to give out when we were kids, like Small Fry and the Secret Sauce Agent. And all their devotees have the same head as Jack. Laughter again. And so on, all through that summer. Our creative chemistry was explosive. Those 6 months went by like a dream. We were really, really enjoying each other's company. Now, when Mary was 14 years old, her 20-year-old brother Peter had apparently been murdered, but the family was never certain whether he had drowned accidentally or been deliberately killed. His body was never found. Since I had already been talking to the dead with Trudy Campbell, now I said, let's find out. But she was afraid. She had been asking questions all summer long about our interviews with the dead, and she was very fascinated by it. She wanted to learn as much as she could about the other side, and I told her everything about it that I had learned thus far. We had begun making jokes about it. What if she suggested you interviewed your higher self? You could call the video John David Ebert and Shruti Campbell interviewed John David Ebert. I just about died laughing. I told her about the existence of an extinct mammal from the Oligocene era called a Chalicotherium, which is a truly bizarre animal that resembles a sloth, has a gorilla's body but the head of a horse. She thought it was the funniest thing she'd ever seen. She then suggested, what if you and Shruti interviewed a Chalicotherium? We laughed so hard over that one. But for some reason, talking directly to her dead brother scared her, so I then offered to do it for her. She didn't have to be present at all during the interview. Shruti and I could do it ourselves. She was agreeable to that. So Shruti and I got her brother Peter on the line via Skype, and the first thing that I asked him about were the circumstances of his death. He then explained that yes, he had been murdered. He had been about to go on a drug run on a boat through the Keys, and while still on the dock, he got into a dispute with one of the other men over the money. Someone then came up behind him and cut his throat. They then took his body out to sea and dumped it. So that solved that mystery. His death, we learned, had been contracted. A contract, or an agreement, let's say, is what a soul agrees to before it incarnates. It can be all kinds of things, but usually contracts are agreed upon for the purpose of karmic balancing. In other words, if you were murdered by someone in a past life, you and that other soul might agree to switch places, and you become the murderer at this time. You might agree to die in a car accident. You might contract for suicide. It can be any number of things, but there are always karmic reasons for them. They aren't random. So contracts, then, are these events that absolutely will happen to you, although you still have free will in the sense that you can respond to them in any way that you choose. And of course, before incarnating, you used your free will to agree to the contracts in the first place. For instance, during one of these sessions with a medium, I learned that my divorce had been contracted. In other words, no matter what I had done to try and salvage the marriage, my ex and I had already pre-agreed for it to fail. And I had also contracted to meet Mary, yet again, as we'll see. So no matter what else had transpired in my life, Mary and I would have met regardless. We always meet, in every single one of our incarnations. So her brother's death, we learned, had not been an accident, but something we had all agreed upon before incarnating that would happen in order for her family to learn from it. Sometimes I get the impression that the souls on the other side are innately masochistic. I sent the video to Mary, who watched it, then sent it to her mother. They were both skeptical about whether it was really her brother we were talking to. But I said, then who were we talking to? Then I proposed that we interview Eric Medus, the dead kid who had shot himself and then become an internet celebrity of sorts, together with his mother Elisa. I suggested that we interview him about our relationship and see what we could find out about it, karmically speaking. So a few days later, Shruti and I then got Eric on the line, but before we could ask him anything, Shruti said, he's laughing. Why? He says, you guys are crazy. That made me laugh. It was obviously true. Shruti then went on to explain that Mary and I are what I call cosmic twins. These are not soulmates, which is a different category. You can have lots of different soulmates who are simply people who have agreed to incarnate with you and play a role in your life. You only have one cosmic twin, though, and not everyone has one. Cosmic twins are two souls which have actually split apart from an original primordial soul. They are mirror images of each other, and they tend to mirror each other's behavior. They also have a tendency to always incarnate in each other's lifetimes, playing a very significant role in each lifetime. They aren't always lovers, however, as I've learned. Eric and his mother are cosmic twins, as were my mother and her mother Dorothy. Cosmic twins have a bond that is absolutely unbreakable no matter what they put each other through. If a cosmic twin commits suicide, there's a very real possibility that the other might follow. So, Shruti explained that Mary and I have been incarnating over and over again, playing a sort of karmic game of one-upsmanship. It's like the cosmic version of Itchy and Scratchy. You hurt me, now I'll hurt you, and so on. On and on. I asked how long this had been going on, and Eric, via Shruti, explained that it's been going on for many, many incarnations. I asked him to describe one of the most recent ones, and he said that Mary had been a wealthy aristocrat in a palace sometime during the past couple of centuries, which is doubly amusing because Mary had only liquid scorn for wealthy people. I had been someone who was making deliveries to this palace, and when she saw me, she decided she wanted me instantly. We then had a torrid, passionate love affair during which, as Eric put it, she used and abused you. That made me laugh. I later found out, using another medium, that in this incarnation Mary was beheaded as the result of a political scandal. Later on, with another medium, I asked her what her favorite incarnation of ours together was. She said that there's always this weird asymmetry between us, in which one of us is either married, dead, or there's an age gap, as in our case, which makes things particularly difficult. So her favorite one was one in which we were a pair of teenage lovers living on a dirt-poor farm. We got married at about the age of 15, and then she had a baby, but died in childbirth. Then later the child died, then I died. "Geez, Mary," I said, "what's so great about that incarnation?" The medium burst into laughter. We then discussed other aspects of the relationship, and I learned one other interesting detail. When I asked what my most recent incarnation had been, Shruti said, "I'm seeing images of World War II, and you were a doctor." I said, "That's funny because I have a great-grandfather on my mother's side who was a surgeon in a MASH unit during World War II. Shruti then took a moment to relay the information to Eric, and then she said, "Yes, you were him. That is correct." Wow. I am the reincarnation of my own dead great-grandfather? I actually took that as a compliment because this man was a huge overachiever, a graduate of Johns Hopkins Medical School and a military man who made it to the grade of a major. The day after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, he enlisted in the Army. I later learned from another medium that Mary had appeared in this lifetime in the form of an affair in which he cheated on his wife. That same medium also told me that our relationship is never for some reason on the up and up. We seem to always prefer affairs, back alley romances, jealous love triangles, etc. I then joked with Mary during this same interview, "Hey babe, next time can we just have like a regular marriage?" I checked my great-grandfather's death date. He died on March 18th, 1967. I was born on June 26th, 1968. Apparently I wasn't on the other side for very long before diving back into the meat body. Mary and I watched this video interview together, and she laughed about it, but she was still skeptical. However, as subsequent events would play out, the skepticism would eventually change, and in the harshest possible manner.